I'm delighted today to be joined by Richard Kent, Deputy Director of Facilities Management at King's College London. Good afternoon, Richard, and welcome.
Good afternoon, John. Thank you for inviting me.
So King's College is one of the top 35 universities in the world, one of England's oldest and most prestigious, and offers world-leading research, teaching and education. King's Vision 2029 sets out your ambition to make the world a better place, building on strong foundations of sustainable excellence. LCMB have had the privilege of working with King's over the last 14 years to help them with a range of projects ranging from restructuring facilities, buying in third-party support, reviewing the carbon management plan, green ICT and energy conservation. With over 33,000 students across multiple campuses in central London, the King's College estate is certainly complex and dynamic. So you have a challenge to combat legacy issues, ensure sustainable growth, and you've been delivering recent facilities projects to transform the estate and make it more efficient, economical and environmentally sustainable. So would you mind sharing with us some of the background and the challenges such a complex estate presents and the areas you've looked to and worked with LCMB for support?
Good question, John. I would say, you mentioned at the top of that really that we're one of the oldest universities in England and the UK. We are almost 200 years old, founded in 1829, so
happy birthday.
Soon, 200 years old in 2029, hence Vision 2029. As you'd expect, being around for that long, we have a number of historic buildings. We have, if you take our Strand campus, for example, you have buildings that are 200 years old, buildings that were from the 50s and 60s, which is why you get this facade of the Strand with the some would say ugly, some wouldn't, the ugly concrete. But you've got a myriad of buildings behind that as well. And similarly with the health estate, most of our buildings on the Guy's campus are legacy buildings from 100, 150 years ago. And some of them date back to obviously when Thomas Guy founded Guy's Hospital, before Guy's Hospital itself was built. So a lot of problems with the usual historic issues you have with those, whether that be heating, whether that be sustainability, whether that be general usage. Accessibility is a huge problem for us. Sustainability is a huge problem for us. One solution in one building might not be applicable to even the whole of that building, let alone other buildings. So we have to look at a myriad of solutions. We've even got very new buildings we've recently opened, as in earlier this month, we opened the London Institute of Healthcare Engineering at St Thomas's, brand new building, and we'll be hosting startups and, as the name suggests, healthcare engineers in there to take research and healthcare engineering development into the next century, really. So, huge amount of problems. Sustainability is one I know that's very close to your heart and something you've helped us on quite a lot in the past. I think back to 2018, I think it was, when we signed the EPV with our PFI partner, Bouygues, as they were at the time. They're now Equans. But Bouygues run two buildings for us, Franklin Wilkins building at Waterloo, which is our biggest standalone building by some margin, and New Hunts House in the middle of the Guy's campus. That PFI contract expires later on this year. But we took the opportunity to see how we could make some energy savings in that building. We used some of your colleagues to help us get the actual contract off the ground, which was no mean feat. Obviously, King's had its own interest, Bouygues had its own interest, and we whilst both being absolutely engaged in the process and wanting to make the improvements, we obviously had to protect our own interests. But having got it off the ground, it was a question of then measuring, identifying the tasks, how we were going to make the savings, how we were going to measure whether we were hitting those targets or not, and then looking at the savings, both in terms of energy, which was the main driver for it, but obviously financial as well. And there was a gain share on that as well. So LCMB obviously helped us get the contract set up, helped us in setting the targets and agreeing those targets with Bouygues, helped us on measuring those targets, and every step of that contract you would help us produce an annual report agreed, signed by both parties, and which would actually give us the verified data and the verified financial results of that.
Oh, thank you, Richard. So I guess we've helped you with some of the past challenges. Here and now with the estate, what would you say are the biggest challenges that Kings need to address? And what things are most challenging for you, and where you need support going forward?
COVID was a very interesting time, obviously in our industry, obviously for the whole world. But it was quite an interesting thing because we are structured to look at all manner of health and safety issue in terms of our legal obligations, but also our it always goes a bit further than that as well. One thing that never really raised its head at King's prior to COVID was the issue of ventilation, which was quite interesting. I know prior to King's, LCMB actually helped us looking at some of the air quality in a couple of our buildings, Lavington Street and James Clerk Maxwell building at Waterloo, and some of the things you helped us with and the results you gave us really helped us sort of look at how we're going to use those buildings going forward and what we need to do. In fact, Lavington Street, which is our we call it our professional services hub. It's where the central functions, the HR, finance, estates and facilities, all sit in that same building, 2 floors of open plan desks. We had huge issues there, and your work helped us point the way into how we invest better into getting better ventilation solutions. And ventilation, I think, because of COVID, has become more of an issue. You've helped us a lot with the development of putting in air monitoring into some of our key areas where we know the ventilation isn't great, introducing the use of air things to help us measure that on an ongoing basis, help us to identify where we need to make improvements. And we've made improvements both in very sort of small amounts of money and larger amounts of money. But I think more importantly, it's to give our customers, whether they be students or staff, a bit of reassurance that we're taking that seriously and it's being measured going forward. And probably should also mention, I think, Britannia House, which is a standalone chemistry building, probably about 5 minutes walk south of the Guy's campus. An old building, well, I say old, I think it was 70s, converted to labs. But the ventilation in there has been a real issue for our research staff down there. And you've worked very closely with my colleagues on the Guy's campus to really make a difference in the ventilation management of the whole building.
Thank you, Richard. Taking me back to COVID, it seems so long ago, doesn't it?
It does.
So you've mentioned a range of projects that we've supported Kings on over the last sort of decade and a half almost. So the work on COVID, the work on the EPV, the energy performance work, the work supporting some of the more recent transition out to the PFI projects. I wonder if you could share with me some of the key headlines of what benefits we've been able to deliver from those projects and what Kings have taken from them.
Sure. I think, as I touched on at the end of my last answer, the biggest benefit it really is the staff and student experience. Within estates facilities, we do a customer service program, and our student experience is always front and centre of everything we do. We have a phrase, our deeds define us. So everything we do is geared to giving our students a better experience and to making sure we continue to be at the forefront of research, whether that be medical research, whether that be in our war studies team or geography team. So we need to make sure that we keep our current cohort of staff and students happy, productive. And you've certainly helped us to do that. I mentioned about Britannia House. We need to be maintaining our buildings so that we are delivering on that. And I think probably a good example of where you helped or actually I should say are helping with us right now is our asset management program, dedicated outsourced maintenance contract over 4 buildings, 2 of which are the PFI buildings which I mentioned, because that comes to an end in August this year. So we need an engineering solution in place to be able to continue. One thing we can't do is drop in service. We need a continued high-end service on those buildings, and 2 very critical medical research buildings down in Denmark Hill campus, the James Black Centre and the Maurice Wall Institute. So we'll have those 4 buildings, and your help in making sure we get the right contractor in who understands King's, is going to work on it's a long contract, so we're looking for a partner. We're not looking for a contractor, we're looking for a partner who's going to work with our best interests as well as their best interests.
I guess the scale and complexity of the projects has meant that there's been complex and multiple stakeholder management involved, and our team have had to get embedded and work, I guess, in the trenches or alongside the King's team. I wonder if you mind sharing with us your views on how this has delivered value and helped keep the projects on track and deliver those sort of benefits you've been describing.
I think LCMB help us to deliver those tangible benefits because we've worked so close with you for so long. We're working roughly with the same people. You know our key people, having worked with them for so long, whether that be myself, whether that be colleagues of mine embedded in the campuses, whether that be my boss, Julie Jackson, Director of FM, Director of Estates and Facilities, Nick O'Donnell. You kind of get us. You know our buildings, you know our problems, and I think it's only by doing that that you can deliver those benefits. We couldn't expect someone to come in cold and be able to do this. That's why I think we were so delighted to get you onto our preferred supplier list, so that it's very easy to appoint you because we know whenever we give you work to do or whether we ask you to do something specific for us, and I've given a few examples of that already, but you'll be able to hit the ground running because you know us.
Thank you for that, Richard. So I guess I'm interested to know what's next for King's. What will be the focus over the next 12 to 24 months?
I think this year, as I said, the PFI contract is ending.
Yep.
That's a considerably large amount of work.
Yeah.
Not just in the ending the contract in the right way and getting the buildings back as we expect them from our current PFI partner. But it's also, as I said, it's maintaining that experience for all the people who use those buildings as we go forward. It's a very challenging time for higher education generally. I would point you to a piece of work our principal recently did. He published a paper called "The Triangle of Sadness," which it's based around the problems facing higher education, but obviously affecting us. We're welcoming more and more people onto our campuses. We're attracting more and more critical research. It's difficult to maximise the use of our facilities. We've moved to a hybrid working model for professional services staff after COVID. We know some of the buildings aren't being used particularly well, whether that's because of hybrid working, people only going in 2 or 3 days a week. It's also because I think just the age and nature of the building, people would prefer to use other parts of them. So we're doing a lot of analysis on how we can increase the use of it. We're still quite reliant on a lot of foreign students coming over, which in itself presents a challenge for us. It's difficult to make ends meet with just British students. The tuition fee of £9,250 a year was set in 2012. Essentially, that's around about £6,000 a year in real terms. I'm not suggesting we should raise it. There's lots of reasons why we shouldn't. But that does cause us problems. So we have to rely on other sources of funding, which includes more foreign students. So bringing more people in, bringing more critical research in, attracting critical research from other departments, other universities, other organisations, attracting money to support that critical research, and really, as the phrase goes, try and sweat the asset a bit more.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge, I think.
Can I also ask you how King's evaluates success on a project? Is it the tangible numbers, such as payback, return on investment, or is it the intangible softer metrics, such as student experience or staff experience, user experience?
I would say probably both. But actually, I think I'd probably flip that round, because some of our projects are driven and indeed approved and budgeted for as a result of one of those other factors. So some of them have a direct, some of them are approved on the basis that there will be a payback or there will be a tangible benefit. A lot of our sustainability projects are like that. The decarbonisation programme and plans will be based around that, because obviously we need to, if we're going to make the investments, we're going to need to demonstrate that we are making the changes as a result of those investments. Others are based around intangibles. I'd say intangibles. I think there's something there. It's difficult to measure them post-project as a tangible, but they are initiated, say, as a tangible. We get the national student survey results. We have direct feedback, whether that's from KCL Student Union or whether that's from individual student groups or even individual students. Who will make a complaint or will make a comment to say we need more of this, we need more study space, we need more casual space, we need more dining space, and that can initiate a project. In fact, every year we do a number of summer works projects. That's our bigger window, and always there's projects in there which are student facing. We must deliver every summer improvements on the student. On the estate to give a better student experience, but as I say, it's very difficult to measure them tangibly whether that's always the case, because we've always got to be making improvements.
I guess those are the challenge and focus you see for Kings over the next 12 to 24 months. Do you see any different challenges for the HE sector as a whole in the future, or do you think they'll mirror those challenges at Kings?
I think of the HE sector. I think what I've said there is probably consistent across the whole sector. Now we're lucky. King's is a highly rated university, a Rust Group university, and I think Rust Group universities generally are in a much better position to be able to meet those challenges. It's certainly challenging more challenging, I think, for the 1992 universities.
Drawing our discussion to a conclusion, I mean, in summary, what would you list as the sort of couple that top 2 or 3 benefits that you think Kings have taken from the partnership with LCMB over the last 14 years?
In terms of tangible benefits, I think our improvements around sustainability in the particular areas I've mentioned. Now, the sustainability challenge is vast and obviously goes beyond some of the works we've done with yourselves, but hopefully we can partner on more things going forward and make a difference there. The decarbonisation plan is quite a tough target to meet. Hopefully we can rely on your help in some of those tasks. I think really just generally about building management. I mentioned about sweating the asset, making better use of our buildings. Well, I know there are things you can help us with there, making sure we do that better, and we can take perhaps poorer served facilities and bring them up to a certain standard with regards to such as ventilation, things like that.
I'd really like to thank you for joining us today and sparing your time, and wish Kings every success over the next 4 years as you sail into your 200-year anniversary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Cheers, John. Thank you.